A very good evening to all our viewers. Welcome to today's edition of The Agenda. My name is Tewan Jabala, your host. Tonight we are very excited because we are discussing a subject that has done so much round this week, and that is around the issues of marriage, divorce. And to help us unpack that is Pastor John Hafeni Kamati. He is an ordained minister of the gospel, a certified marriage and relationship counselor, mentor, coach, motivational speaker. He is a bag of everything in that regard. And so thank you, John, for being here.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me as well.
Wonderful. And then we are joined virtually by Petrine Hango. She's a legal practitioner at Dr. Vedder Hoveka and Kauta Law Firm. In fact, Petrine, how we got to know of her is that she made some remarks in that regard this week, and we thought they were very, very interesting, and we want to engage her further on the subject. Petrine, thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you very much for the opportunity. It's a pleasure to be here.
Wonderful. I'll start with you, Petrine. Eagle FM quoted you saying that the leading cause of divorce is abuse and cheating by husbands. I don't know if they quoted you correctly, but if they did, maybe lead us into that conversation. Where did that view come from as far as you're concerned?
Okay. So the interview that took place with Legal FM, it was in Oshiwambo. So yeah. I believe that they translated that into English. The interview did not take place in English. So, and sometimes you find that it's difficult to find words or to translate legal terms from English from Oshiwambo to English. Yes. So basically, what we did, basically marriage, in order for a person to divorce, they need to be married first. And the marriage is outlined or is provided for by the Constitution of the Republic of Namibia, which is the supreme law of the land. Article 14 of the Namibian Constitution provides the right to women and men of full age to marry. And the marriage should be entered with a free and full consent of the intending spouses. And also we have the Married Persons Equality Act of 1996. So there are laws. Our divorce laws are based on common law. And there is a Namibian case, SK versus SL. It's a case number I-924/2016. It's a High Court judgment. It laid out that divorce laws are based on common law and they are based on fault. There are 4 grounds of divorce that are recognized by our law, and namely it's adultery, and the second one is malicious desertion, and the third one is incurable insanity, which has existed for not less than 7 years, and the fourth one is imprisonment for 5 years after the defendant spouse has been declared a habitual criminal. So a lot of times you will find that the most common one is malicious desertion. And for malicious desertion, then you also have the four forms of malicious desertion, like actual desertion, and you have refusal of marital privileges, where a spouse is being denied conjugal rights, and sentence of death or life imprisonment. So with malicious desertion, you will notice that with constructive desertion is mostly the common one, where there is no love or respect in the marriage, there is no communication. You will find that also there is financial, physical, emotional, and psychological abuse. Some of those are the reasons that are mostly cited as to
Yeah.
why people want to divorce. Thank you.
Wonderful. So thank you, Petrine, for that. John, why do people get married? When you are a counselor in this space, when people come looking for your service and say, this is my beloved girlfriend or boyfriend, we want to be married into one, what is that sort of common reason why people seem to want to get married?
I think number one, I need to mention that we are relational beings as human beings. And we also have a functionality that is complementary in terms of our makeup as human beings, but also in terms of meeting our needs to relate, to have fellowship, and to have intimacy, to experience love, and to give love. So people will come and say that they want to get married because they love one another. Some people might say that they feel that they have reached an age that they want to have children, and they have a partner that they are in agreement to get married to.
Indeed. So, I'm asking that question, and we'll come back to it, John, later, because, you know, there's people saying, you know, people get married for wrong reasons, and that's why they end up divorcing. But maybe before you go back to Petrine, what do you tell your clients? I mean, do you think that you have the right at all to, as a professional, to tell them to say, look, you must also get married for good reasons? Do you come across situations where the reasons, because I assume sometimes you ask them, why are you guys getting married? Just to sort of, you know, gauge them, and then they will tell you things. Do you sometimes come across situations where you feel that the reasons being put forth are not very solid enough for one to get married?
Not necessarily that the reason might not be solid, but there could be factors that are indicators that which are called red lights, that either the people are not mature enough, or they might not be really ready to engage in a commitment of marriage. I've only had one incident where I can feel, or where I would say that people were getting married for wrong reasons. And I think there was a serious desperation from the one party to get into a marital relationship. But it was more because they wanted to almost to take revenge for the relationship they are coming out of. So I felt that they were not into this thing for the right reasons.
Indeed.
But I think generally people would want to get married because, as I said, we are relational. It's a natural desire and an outflow of human relationships. It is just having the skill, being aware of what are the principles that makes a marital union successful.
Indeed. Now, Petrine, in your engagement this week with Eagle FM, did you actually say that men are the leading cause of divorces?
Well, I would say that not only men, But even women, yes, you know, when you, I mean, divorce courts are open courts, and in our high courts, anyone can go and, you know, listen to the proceedings in the gallery. So, and you'll find that the plaintiffs, they can be men, they can be women, and they can be older people, they can be young people. So it's, yeah, it's not only men, yes. But of course, there are reasons that, you know, you will find that, okay, maybe men, you know, engage in this kind of conduct or this and this.
Yeah. What is that recurring theme as far as divorce, the cases that you ordinarily deal with on a daily basis? What is that one thing that seems to be always the reason being put forth, the most common reason being put forth as the reason why people want to divorce?
Definitely no love or respect. No love is always the common one. You know, once the love is gone, then everything else falls apart, you know. And also, that is the common one. No love, or also sometimes there is no conjugal rights provided to one spouse, the defendant.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Why does that happen, John? Why would what happens to love?
I think that is very important question.
Yeah.
Because love is a verb. Love is a do word. Especially from the Christian perspective, when you see the definition of love and you look at words like love is patient, love is caring, love does not hold a record of wrong, love covers.
Doesn't boast and all those things.
It doesn't boast.
Yeah.
Yeah. If that is gone, then really there is a reason before that, that a person would come and say that there is no love. I think at the end of the day is the desire to try that I find that is lost. If a person say that there is no respect, what is the cause that would bring a lack of respect for someone?
Yeah, yeah.
And those are the intricacies that I deal with when I do counseling.
Yeah.
One party will come and they will complain. It could be any reason. You know, there's no sex, or, you know, as our counselor said, you know, withholding of conjugal rights. It could be finances. Sometimes they would say it's violence. But then when you go deeper, you find that the bottom line is that the relational principles have been violated.
It's interesting because, John, there's, we have seen there are many cases, even in courts right now, of older couples divorcing. There's a couple of weeks ago, there was a former minister who is divorcing his wife, and that minister is in his 70s, perhaps, if I'm perhaps in the early 70s, if not late 90s, late 60s. I mean, what could possibly happen? And I'm not asking that we speculate, but I mean, and I'm not referring specifically to him, but there are so many cases, similar cases, people so old, even their own children are married, but they still go on and divorce. You divorce at that age to do what?
When I do premarital counseling, I think that is where we miss it.
Yeah.
The foundation of everything is very key, that you understand, that you have knowledge, and that you are also prepared for it.
Yeah, yeah.
One of the things that I state is this: the length of your relationship does not determine the quality of that relationship.
Yeah, yeah.
You could be in a relationship for years and still not enjoy the quality of that relationship. And for various reasons, you could endure it.
Yeah.
I see that even with young couples, couples that will get married, and within 3 months, one of the parties is sleeping on the couch. Because I believe that there is a lack of understanding of the principles that can make marriage successful.
Yeah, yeah.
If you've been in a marriage for so long, what could it be that at the age where you should be enjoying the evening season of your life, if I can call it that, it could either be that you have left, now you have, I call it, you have crossed the threshold of, of acceptance of all those things that were not pleasant to you. People can stay together, they are not communicating for years and still be conveniently, for the sake of convenience, for the sake of children. It could even be for the sake of status, what people think outside, or pressure from family. So the point that I want to make is this: the length of your relationship does not necessarily guarantee the quality of that relationship.
Wonderful. It's a good observation. Counsel Hango, in your daily dealings with divorce cases, who initiates most of the cases that you deal with? Again, I don't think you are giving away client information away. I think in general, is it men or women?
Well, actually, our cases now are, you can access a case if you have the case number. So, and you will notice that there isn't really, we don't have a number really. It's just everybody comes in, whether it's women or it's men. So you can't really say it's women are more than men.
Yeah.
Yes.
John, maybe if I can,
please.
If I can just add on to that question. From where I sit, I have observed that in many cases, it is women that will initiate or that will reach out for counseling. I think there's a reason for that. And it does not necessarily mean that they are the ones that are wronged. But I think the makeup that we have as we are wired, male and female, I think women are much more vocal. They are much more easy in expressing their emotion. Not just are they vocal, I think they are quite articulate compared to us men.
Indeed. It's interesting again there because does it mean, for example, that who fights most for the marriage in your experience?
For the marriage?
Yes.
Very interesting. I would want to also just cite with the counsellor there that there is always two stories to a, or rather, two sides to a story until you hear the second story. And then the third or the fourth side of that story emerges. So I find that sometimes people are just frustrated with their circumstances. Not that they want to leave the marriage, but they lack the skills or they get stuck and they reach out for help. And you find that none of them want to leave it, but they are frustrated with where they are. And in many cases, I find that really, when I ask this question, do you want out? Most of the time, I get the question, I get the answer that, no, I want my marriage. And I think that is the reason why people would then come for counseling.
Yeah.
And I am of the opinion that many people that eventually end up at court for divorce is because they've never had the opportunity to have an external intervention that can help them with conflict resolution or managing of this conflict, or perhaps just understanding the dynamics of the relation. Some people would have problems because of it's a blended family. There are children that are not from the matrimonial union. So my observation is that really people always want to have their marriage succeed.
Indeed. Councillors, we
yes, and just to add to
going
that,
for a quick break. We will return with you.
Okay.
We continue with the agenda with Pastor John Kamati and legal practitioner Petrine Hango. I don't know if before we went on a break, Petrine, there's something that you wanted to say back to us?
Yes, I just wanted to add that also I think that we need to really start encouraging couples to go for counseling. Just to see if they can, try and solve the problem they have. Because sometimes you are not even thinking of, going to file for divorce, because there's a lot of issues involved. Like I always, the children, they are not always happy that there's a divorce, and life is not perfect and no one is perfect. So sometimes you have to try first and go for counseling, and also you have to make it an ongoing thing. If you go for premarital counseling, you should also try and go for post-marital counseling, and also try and just build your marriage. And also another thing I would also say is just to encourage some of the men to just open up more, and seek help if you need it. And also today there are WhatsApp groups that married couples can join and learn. I mean, Namibia is 99% a Christian nation. So you could actually also be inspired by that, and sometimes you can even find that people are sharing their problems there and also providing solutions. If you can't afford a marriage counselor. But
Indeed.
I think we need to encourage people to go for counseling and to learn to resolve conflicts.
I couldn't agree more.
You agree?
Thank you so much, Councillor, for saying that, because that is really what I'm advocating for, and what I'm also very much working towards creating a sensitization. I reach out to various churches across all denominations, and I do monthly seminars. I also reach out to various denominations that I can hold those sessions in the churches. In fact, I think in 2 weeks' time I'll be in Wolfies Bay at one of the Lutheran church in Quizemont, where I'll be doing this as well. I want also to add, as you said, that Namibia is predominantly a Christian nation, that churches where people actually get married, mostly, need to invest more in doing comprehensive premarital preparation. I have a program that is about 12 modules that for just premarital preparations. And what I have also observed is that, especially now with social media, when young people are getting married, they are so much engrossed in the countdown.
Yeah.
You know, 360 days to go. They are counting down.
Yeah.
And they don't invest in what is important, which is the preparation for this lifelong commitment. I would encourage that. I have also found that sometimes they are so keen that when you come to counseling and you start to deal with issues that are indicating that they might have to hold on.
Yeah.
I had a couple that I recommended. I said that put the wedding on hold.
Yeah.
It is easier to break an engagement or a relationship rather than breaking a marriage, as we hear from our counselor.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I said that, they stopped coming because I was now intervening in their marital plans. By that time, they've already invested in the attire, the venue, and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think it's really very, very important that we see the value so that we can avoid these later problems.
Indeed. Petrine, the pastor spoke about the investment, the level of investment that is made into particularly weddings. Do you think, for example, that people enter marriages a little bit stressed? They have blown up all their investments into weddings, and to recover from that, even mentally, is a bit difficult. So the marriage itself starts on a very sort of stressful and angry note.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Actually, I did highlight this issue when I had the interview with Eagle FM, that, like in Oshiwambo culture, or people put so much preparation into the wedding day and less into the marriage. So we need to change that that issue. Focus on the marriage, cultivate a culture where we are investing in our marriage before getting married. And yes, you will know that if, like, of course, if you've attended an Oshiwambo wedding, it's so much preparation. You have to buy dresses, like the couple, usually they have to buy dresses for the old kupus, the old people.
Aunties and grannies.
Yes, the uncles. And you have to serve food for everyone. In the Oshiwambo culture, you have to give people food and drinks. And also then there's also the wedding deco, which can be quite hefty on a normal couple. An average working Namibian or middle class Namibian couple, it can be quite hefty. Those prices can be exorbitant. And then you find that people are left with no finances, no money anymore after the wedding. So I encourage also people to look into that. You need to plan. You need to have a budget, and you need to know what is your financial position, what is in your pocket. Just buy what you can afford. Look for vendors that are within your budget, and don't have a wedding to impress people. because a wedding is only a one-day event, but a marriage is forever. Rather invest in your marriage, like maybe going to seminars with your spouse and going on maybe away on holiday or something like that, rather than an exorbitant wedding, and then after that you are all left with nothing, looking at each other. And sometimes you even find that people are taking loans for weddings. You should not do that. I suggest that if your partner proposes you, that you actually take a year to plan this, save money, and live within your means.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I know you want to say exactly something on that, John, and I want just to expand on it so that you respond at once. Is there a psychological element to these things that, you know, you are getting married and somehow you feel pressured by society without society having to say a word at all? Just the whole setup of society, you feel already pressured to outdo the last guy who got married in your village, and therefore that is how you end up. I mean, if I'm getting married today and I don't have a tent, you know, Kalongo, where I come from, I'll be harshly judged. Oh, he didn't have a tent. Only 2 cattle were slaughtered. Does that sort of naturally, just without the word being said, put you under pressure?
I think there is a definite pressure for that, especially within, I would say, the culture of the of Ambo people, where I also come from. I'll give you an example. I had a young couple that I started counseling 9 months after they got married. They eventually ended up with me. And they came to me because they were at the verge of divorce. The lady is pregnant. They got into this marriage with a big budget. They had a big wedding. And there was something very interesting that I picked up. I'm speaking to this lady and she said, I realized that I didn't want to get married to this guy. And I asked now, why did you get married? The parents were saying that you will put us to shame. We have already sent out the invitations. So she got married. By the time they came to see me, the parents were not even aware that there is a problem. That pressure was there. They had the wedding they wanted, but the people that were giving the pressure are not there to carry you when you are burdened. And that is why it's important to really have the knowledge how to do this. I keep telling people, within Namibia, if you are to have a legal wedding or a civil wedding, if we call it that, the church is really a ceremony where the ceremony or the ritual take place if you want to have in church. But the document that you sign, the marriage certificate, it's actually a government document. You can get married at the magistrate court. Many a times I encourage people. I said, just get married. People will be living together, enjoying the privileges of marriage. But then they don't want to go and get married to the magistrate because they want a white wedding. And that's one of the problems. People do not understand the why and what marriage really is. And that is why counseling is necessary. Indeed.
Speaking of law, Petrine, the current law, like you stated in the very beginning, is based on fault. The current divorce law is based on fault, meaning one spouse must prove that the other spouse did something wrong. And I know there are efforts now to sort of rectify that, because what if we simply got tired of each other? We don't feel each other anymore. What happens in that? Do I get to get divorced? Can I be permitted to divorce because I don't feel the marriage anymore? But I'm not blaming at all my spouse for anything. She's an incredible woman, for argument's sake.
Yes, so Our law is based on fault, as I've indicated, and there's currently a divorce bill that has been tabled, and it wants to highlight those issues, you know, to have to provide that the only basis for divorce is a irretrievable breakdown of a marriage. And this would also make the divorce process shorter and also save costs, you know, to different to the spouses or the plaintiff and the defendant. And it's also a way to make divorce more accessible to couples, and also they are actually also proposing that the divorces also are, you know, take place in our magistrates, the regional courts, because currently divorce is only done or conducted by the proceedings are only done in the High Court, and we only have 2 High Courts in Namibia, the one in Windhoek, the main division, and the one in Oshakati, the northern local division. Yes.
Just to add on that, again, speaking of law, Petrine, another problem, and I know you won't like this question because it threatens your career in some way, but another problem is that the current law on divorce is that it's almost impossible for couples to divorce without the involvement of lawyers, which is expensive. I can't afford you, Petrine. I can't afford you. What must happen there? The amendment bill that is being mooted, is it contemplating on also containing some of these issues?
Yes, like I've indicated, it's the bill is has been, you know, drafted to make divorce more accessible. You know, that means that easier to get divorced. And you know, our divorce are all different. Every case is different, and this will depend on how long the parties have been married, the assets they have accumulated, and whether the parties were married in community of property or out of community of property. Did the parties sign an antenuptial contract? You know, whether the divorce proceedings are defended or undefended. So it's a whole issues that one has to look at. Sometimes you'll find that a couple has accumulated quite a lot of assets during the duration of their marriage, and the divorce can be complex, and they would need to appoint an advocate. And we also currently have the mediation, where parties are given an opportunity to try and sit down with their lawyers and a mediator and see if they can actually settle on issues like maybe property and custody or maintenance. Yes, on those issues. So I think the law has tried, but the bill will even make divorce proceeding even cheaper and accessible to Namibians. And I read in the newspaper recently that about 1.6 million Namibians are poor. So, and we are only about 2.4 million or 2.5 million, if I'm not mistaken. So this shows that people cannot afford.
Indeed.
Yeah.
You
we
want to
also
say
have
something?
people that are,
Yes.
Before we go on a break, maybe just to react to that.
Yes. I want to talk about the mediation situation. Yes. And I think the current setting, the mediation is really only focused on facilitating an easier way of parting.
Yeah.
You know, What we see, or what I see in counseling, is that a lot of marriages are saved at that level.
Yes.
And I think if we want to make it easier, it will be wise when we engage mediation. Let it not just be the mediation that is facilitating an easier parting.
Yeah.
Let there be a component that will allow people to get an access to marriage counseling, or even marriage salvaging counsel.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I think a lot of marriages can be saved before they even get to that level.
Yeah, indeed. So we go for a quick break. We are going to talk about, in the last segment of the show, there was a huge debate in the National Assembly this week about rape in marriages. We will unpack that with my two guests.
Wake up early in the morning and I'm waiting for the sun to rise. Stars fade away, our brand new day. Don't be lazy, don't be shy, hold my hand and kiss the night goodbye. Open your eyes, shine your light. Shine.
Now, this week there was a huge debate in the National Assembly about whether rape can actually take place between married spouses. Elma Dienda, the Deputy Chief Whip of the Popular Democratic Movement, said there's no such thing as rape in marriages, and she was taken on by younger MPs like Emma Theophiles, the Deputy Minister of Information, Ina Hengari, the PDM MP, and Patience Masua. They were all not impressed with the senior MP's remarks in that regard. Engage me on that. Does it exist? Because another question that was being asked is conjugal rights, to say, and Counsel Hango spoke about it a bit earlier on. Some people asking, where does it begin, where does it end? People feeling entitled to having sex with their spouses at any given time, but people are saying there ought to be still consent in that arrangement.
I think intimacy, sexual intimacy, is the highest intimacy that anyone can have with anyone else in the physical.
Yeah.
Not only is it physically intimate, but also emotionally, it's an engaging. And it's an expression of love. And for various reasons, I think it's important that there is an understanding that is caring.
Yeah.
Love is caring, love is giving. But marriage is the platform in which you have access to conjugal rights. But for various reasons, there could also be circumstances that makes it unpleasant.
Yeah.
You find the one partner that has gone to drink, come home drunk, beat the wife, for example. I'm just using that one example.
Yes.
And then have sex with her.
Yeah.
In a setting like that, that is not proper.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have another case where the relationship between the parties was so tarnished. They are not communicating. They really needed intervention.
Yeah.
And the wife said something very interesting. She said, I give sex to my husband, but I really feel raped. And the fact, she said, is just because there is no emotional
attachment anymore.
But out of the intervention we had, there was a turnaround.
Yeah.
For example, yes, when it violates the principles of love, of appreciation, of caring and of giving, I think it needs to be then it violates the principle of really even marital union.
Indeed. Counsellor Hango, your intervention there?
Yes, definitely. If you look at the Combating of Rape Act, 8 of 2000, you know, it defines what is rape, and it doesn't matter whether you are married or you're not married. A married person or married persons, there can be rape in a marriage because there needs to be consent. If one spouse does not consent to the other one, agree to have sexual intercourse, then of course that is a rape, because consent is one of the most important elements to prove.
Let me just interrupt you there. Forgive me, counsel, but
It's fine.
can you engage us on consent? Because what does consent mean? I mean, when people engage in sexual activities with their partners, at what point does anyone say, "Can we have sex now"? Isn't it something that sort of just happened naturally, or do you then have to see how the other person reacts, and in that moment stop yourself if you feel that they don't want to engage in that? Or what does consent mean? Because it doesn't sound realistic that every time you want to have sex, you have to say, "Oh, can we have sex now?"
Basically, it's giving your intention to say yes, agreeing. That's the meaning of consent, to agree to the act, to the sexual act, basically. That's what it means to say yes. You know, when a person says no, or they don't want to engage, then the other spouse must stop.
Okay. Consent.
I'm laughing because I've been married for 31 years now, so you
Sure.
learn through the school of marriage, if one can put it that way.
Sure.
I think the reason why the person might not want to participate is very key.
Yeah.
Because that can be informed by various factors.
Yeah.
It could not just, sometimes it's malicious.
Yeah.
I've had a case, for example, where the wife will withhold sex because she feels that the guy is not providing.
Yeah.
To the extent that this man actually went out and started to steal,
Yeah.
and he ended up in jail. It's a true story.
Yeah.
But again, love is giving. Love is give and take.
Yeah.
There are cases truly where you might not really feel like it. And because of love, you might then consent.
Yeah.
Because it's not gonna do you no harm.
Yeah.
You know, it's in cases where perhaps the Bible is very clear. It says that the body of your spouse belongs to either. The husband's body belongs to the wife, and the wife to the husband, and it says do not withhold one another. But also, God is a good God, He's a loving God. I think we need to look at the circumstances and also have an understanding both ways.
Yeah.
That and that is part of love.
Yeah.
But what I have then found is that sometimes the reason why there is no consensual sex, that is the space in which sometimes people do need counseling.
Yeah.
For to resolve.
Yeah. But that is where, John, I have trouble, and I'm sure a lot of viewers out there. Consent, because it sounds like so technical. It sounds like you have to speak first and say yes. But let's be honest, that's not how sex takes place. It doesn't. People sometimes just start ripping off each other's clothes.
Exactly.
Do you have to read the reaction of the other person, or do you really have to say yes or no?
We are relational beings.
Yeah.
we are emotional beings. And we are also physical. And sex is physical as well as I think there's an emotional component.
Yes.
Your partner could be sick.
Yeah.
Your partner could be emotionally stressed.
Yeah.
Which are legitimate reasons why they might not really even want to take part.
Yeah. Yeah.
It could be as a psychological problem that there are so many variables. But the actual act is part of communication.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's part of the exchange of love.
Yeah.
Some people, you know, as you just stated it, that could happen that way, and it's awesome, and it's fire.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
For some, it might not be the case.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and it also depends on people's makeup and their even their cultural orientation. You know. That you need to really prepare one another for that.
Yeah.
So I think there are so many variables,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, marriage is the institution in which you should enjoy the privileges of intimacy.
Yeah.
Is partly why you should be married as well, or why people get married.
Yeah.
I like what Paul says. Apostle Paul says that if you are burning, you know, rather marry so you are legitimate.
Yeah, yeah, wonderful.
And
in the
also,
interest of time, maybe hold that thought for me, Petrine, and then lump it together with what I'm going to ask you now.
Okay.
Because we are wrapping up now. Just in your final contribution, do we have any such cases? I know I'm putting you on the spot now by asking you this question, but do we have any successful prosecutions, for example, in our courts of people who got raped in marriage? And how prevalent is this issue on the court rolls and stuff like that?
I think yes. Because if you look at it also, we have quite a lot of rape cases in Namibia. The amount of cases is quite alarming. Yes. So yes, they are, but they are not really a lot. You know, but you do find that there's a lot of domestic related rape cases. Yes, but you know, anyone has a right to file a rape case if you are raped by your spouse, and it can be investigated and brought to court.
Yeah, indeed. Pastor Kamati, your final words. If there's anything that, because it's a very exciting conversation, but the time is not enough for us to cover all the ground. If there's anything that you want to address quickly within 1 minute, yeah.
Marriages can be saved.
Yeah.
There's no relationship that is so unsalvageable.
Yeah.
People must give that a chance.
Yeah, yeah.
Always remember your why you got into this. And remember, marriage is a choice.
Yeah.
It's a decision. You choose and you decide.
Yeah.
And also remember that marriage can determine your destiny.
Yeah.
Who you get married to can take the trajectory of your life in a completely different direction, depending whether it's the right person.
Yeah, yeah.
Invest in your marriage rather than in the wedding day.
Yeah.
It is a worthwhile investment. See counselors like us. There are not many. I've started a mentoring program now where I take couples through twice a week. Twice a month. I take them through marital training.
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
Wonderful. John, thank you very much for making time.
It's a pleasure.
You should come back again. The conversation must go on. As long as the issue of divorce and all these things continue, I think the conversation must keep going. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. Petrine, thank you very much for your time. I'm so glad. I was so scared that the network communication would be bad, but it looks like you guys are very lucky there in the north. So thank you very much for your time, and we'll engage you again whenever the need arises.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Wonderful. That was tonight's edition of The Agenda. Thank you for watching, and good night.